Germany cozying up to China, France cutting billion-dollar deals in Africa, and the US slowly being left out of the party. Is America losing its best friends? Welcome back. Today we are diving into one of the biggest shifts in global politics, while European countries, yes, US allies for decades, are suddenly looking east to China and south to Africa for their trade deals. And trust me, this isn't just about politics. It's about money, survival, and the future of global power. For decades, Europe and the US were inseparable, NATO partners, trade buddies, cultural allies. Washington called, Europe answered. But things have changed. Tariffs, unpredictable policies, and America's growing isolationism. This has made European leaders ask, why put all our eggs in the US basket?
And all those watching tonight from beyond our shores, from parliaments and palaces, to those who are huddled around radios in the forgotten corners of the world, our stories are singular, but our destiny is shared. And a new dawn of American leadership is at hand. To those who would tear the world down, we will defeat you. To those who seek peace and security, we support you. And to all those who have wondered if America's beacon still burns as bright, tonight we prove once more that the true strength of our nation comes not from the might of our arms or the scale of our wealth, but from the enduring power of our ideals, democracy, liberty, opportunity, and unyielding hope.
Enter China, the world's second largest economy, hungry for influence and more than willing to sign big trade agreements. Germany, Europe's industrial powerhouse, relies on China as its biggest trading partner. France, they are deepening their ties in Africa, where China already dominates with infrastructure projects and loans. To Europe, China isn't just competition, it's opportunity. And don't sleep on Africa. It's the world's youngest continent, full of resources, labor, and exploding markets. France and Germany see Africa as the future. And while the US talks tough, Europe is putting money on the table. That's why European companies are signing mining, tech, and energy deals across the continent.
If you don't make your product in America, however, under the Trump administration, you will pay a tariff, and in some cases, a rather large one. Other countries have used tariffs against us for decades, and now it's our turn to start using them against those other countries. On average, the European Union, China, Brazil, India, Mexico, and Canada, have you heard of them? And countless other nations charge us tremendously higher tariffs than we charge them. It's very unfair. India charges us auto tariffs higher than 100%. China's average tariff on our products is twice what we charge them. And South Korea's average tariff is 4 times higher. Think of that, 4 times higher. And we give so much help militarily and in so many other ways to South Korea. But that's what happens. This is happening by friend and foe. This system is not fair to the United States and never was.
The tariff, you make it so high, so horrible, so obnoxious that they'll come right away. When I do the 10%, 10% is really, first of all, 10% when you collect it is hundreds of billions of dollars. The numbers that you're talking, all reducing our deficit. But really, so there's 2 ways of looking at a tariff. You can do it as a money-making instrument, or you can do it as something to get the companies. Now, if you want the companies to come in, the tariff has to be a lot higher than 10%, because 10% is not enough. Guys, they're not going to do it for 10. But you make a 50% tariff, they're going to come in.
Absolutely brutalized this morning. Let's see exactly where they are right now. Dow down about 400 or 500 points. Why is it happening? Well, a court ruled that most of Donald Trump's global tariffs are illegal. And the wild part that is now crushing the stock market is that the government might have to give all of that tariff money back. Now, you might say, wouldn't that be good? Well, I'm going to get to that in a moment. A federal appeals court voted 7-4 that only Congress, not the president, has the constitutional authority to put sweeping tariffs in place. Donald Trump's tariffs were going to bring in hundreds of billions of 2025. Those tariffs are now legally on life support. They are still in place for now. But if the Supreme Court agrees with this ruling, we are talking about refunds, billions of dollars going back to the importing companies. And this is where the bond market completely freaked out. Now remember, a tariff is a tax on imports. The thing that most MAGA people, and frankly Trump himself, doesn't seem to understand is the money doesn't come from other countries. China doesn't mail us a check when you tariff China. The tariff is paid by American companies that import goods. I know we're more than halfway through 2025, and I'm still explaining this, but a lot of people still don't understand it. The companies pass along some, most, or all of that tariff to the consumer. So this 170-something billion dollars, it's not a windfall from abroad. It's taken from American businesses and from American shoppers. Bond traders liked tariffs because it meant the government had revenue and didn't have to borrow as much. Less borrowing usually means less pressure on interest rates, but now the government, if it has to give that money back, is going to need to borrow more to make up the difference. And how do you borrow more? You sell treasury bonds. When you suddenly flood the market with bonds you're trying to sell, investors demand higher interest rates to buy them. That's why yields jumped today. The 30-year treasury yield went up to almost 5%. That's the highest it's been in a while. The 10-year went to 4.29%. Short-term rates were also up. Higher yields means it costs the government more to borrow money. And then mortgage rates go up, car loans get more expensive, credit card rates climb. It's like raising the cost of money. Since March, U.S. exports have not just slowed down, they have plunged. We're talking about billions of dollars in products that American companies used to sell overseas that are sitting unsold. Why? Because the rest of the world is deliberately walking away from the United States.
This morning, a double whammy for Americans. Inflation continues to rise as the jobs outlook grows weaker. New data out shows jobless claim applications jumped by 27,000 to 263,000 last week. That's their highest level in almost 4 years. This virtually assures an interest rate cut next week. Meanwhile, the consumer price index rose 0.4% in August. On an annual basis, inflation increased to 2.9% in July. And then there's breaking news from Wall Street. Hope of an interest rate cut has the Dow up more than 500 points, 568 right now and counting, crossing the 46,000 mark for the first time.
Spain will not buy America's F-35 fighter jets. A $7 billion deal gone. $7 billion America's Lockheed Martin will not get. But American manufacturers will. And those European manufacturers have Trump to thank, because the U.S. is no longer a trusted partner. So Trump tried to force Spain to raise defense spending. When Prime Minister Sanchez refused, Trump threatened new tariffs on Spanish goods, and Spain responded by pulling out of the U.S. deal. And it is not the first break. Germany, France, and Italy are also moving defense contracts out of the U.S. The EU is building an independent military capacity because American policy under Trump is unstable, coercive, and self-serving. Lockheed Martin lost a huge deal. European companies are getting a long-term client, and Spain is keeping its defense money inside the European economy. When America provided Spain with billions in military and other aid, Spain was happy to spend billions buying American hardware and goods. But Trump bailed on the deal, and the relationship is over. Europe doesn't need the U.S. military anymore. It is building its own. And Spain just made it clear. The future of European defense is European.
So where does this leave America? Struggling to keep its allies loyal, tariffs, protectionism, and a focus on domestic politics have pushed Europe to hedge its bets. The US once dictated global economy, now is being forced to compete like everyone else. And spoiler alert, Europe is tired of playing second fiddle to America's interests. This shift doesn't mean Europe hates America. It means Europe is choosing independence. Multipolarity is the new buzzword, not US versus China, but a world where countries pick and choose partnerships that serve them best. And right now, Europe thinks China and Africa offer better deals.
Guess who just beat Tesla in Europe? Yep, BYD. Last month, BYD outsold Tesla in Europe, whose sales have dropped nearly 50%, while BYD's sales shot up 169%. Even their plug-in hybrids are flying out the door, up 359%.
Did you know that Germany is one of South Africa's largest trading partners within the European Union? And did you know that South Africa exports minerals, agricultural products, vehicles, and other products to Germany? Yes, the two countries have a long-standing partnership. And today's visit by Germany's President Frank-Walter Steinmeier highlights and aims to strengthen the ties.
So, is America being abandoned by its closest allies, or is this just Europe finally growing up and moving out of Uncle Sam's house? Either way, this global realignment is happening, and fast. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Would you trust the US as your top trade partner right now? Or is Europe making a smart move? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. So YouTube thinks you will like this video over here. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one. Over.